Let's responsibly chant. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we have arrived at mantra 6 in this journey through Isopanisad. And the theme is knowing Krishna. And how can one know Krishna? Thus far we have learned that one can only know Krishna by devotional service. And I ask questions, don't feel shy and look down or anything. Just try to answer, okay? So these are the thematic divisions of the Sri Isopanisad, and we went over it last week. So we shall do a little bit of revision. And the revision for today is specifically contained to the page of the introduction. Right. Now, I sent you this on the group. You're at a Sunday feast talking to a guest who raises the following doubts. Drawing from what Srila Prabhupada writes in the introduction to Sri Isopanishad, how would you answer him or her? You're asking me to believe in God, but I can't see any God. It's up to each individual to find his or her own path. Why should I accept a guru? I can understand God on my own. What proof is there that these scriptures are perfect? So the first question, who would like to take a very educated guess or attempt to answer this? There's no offense in being wrong. Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Yes, very good. Very good. You can't see you say you have intelligence or the brain. The brain is also, you can use the brain or you could use the word intelligence. Either works. And if they can't show it to you, means you don't have it. Yes. But specifically from the introduction, I wonder. What do you say, Abish? Uh-huh. Very good. Anything else? Yeah, why not? You can go for it. Explain to them. Yeah, you have these 4 defects, means you're defective. You can't see everything. So if you can't see everything, can't see material things, what to speak of a spiritual thing like God? You really have to work on the vision to change it to spiritual vision. Read loud and clear, Ruendran.
We are very proud of our life. Often someone may be silent. When you show me God, if you have the eyes to see God, you will never see. You don't have the eyes. You haven't the eyes. If immediately the will becomes God, you cannot even see your hand. So what power do you have to see? We cannot therefore expect nothing to get up, but these inconsistencies. With all these deficiencies, conditioned life, we cannot give perfect knowledge to anyone, nor are we ourselves perfect. Therefore, we accept together as we are.
So that's exactly from Prabhupada's words from the introduction. Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he asked the interviewer, "Do you also want to see?" He said, "Yeah, if you say that you see this time, show me. So he comes emotional, and then I'll show you how."
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good that you shared that and you read it and remembered it like that.
And I said, this knowledge comes from my authority on the subject matter. It does, that we don't question our parents on many issues based on superiority. We must apply the same logic on this matter.
Who said that? Oh. Yeah, we don't. No, that's coming in the later part of. That's the bottom of the introduction. The next questions. This is a top question, but it's a good attempt, Pranesh. Thank you for tuning in your unmanifested form. Then the next question. Is it up to each individual to find their own path? It's okay for you to be a Hare Krishna. In other words, I'm a Muslim or I follow my own path. I have my own understanding of what is God, etc. So what do you think about answering someone of that mentality from the introduction? Okay, you can answer from anywhere, but then we'll narrow it down to the introduction.
So one lady asked Prabhupada the same term to the same argument.
Yeah.
Can't you follow anyone? The Prabhupada said, no, just like you can't put
So there are 9 gates in the body. Okay, there are 9 openings. And if you try to push the food through, God forbid, through any one of the other openings, you may not get nourished sufficiently or at all. So there's only one system. You know, they say all roads lead to one destination. The person asking this type of question will also make a statement like that, like all roads will eventually lead to one destination, all rivers lead to the ocean, etc. But some rivers will dry up, you know, on the way to the ocean, etc. So, what do you have to say about this? We don't know which day of Brahma. You may just go around the entire globe before you reach India, which, you know, may take a very long time. So, specifically now from this Isopanisad. Go ahead. Yeah. You know what I found about this Isopanisad and all of these points when you're preaching, like when you go through the rest, after you do this course, then you must reread this Isopanisad. But just remember what's in the introduction and then read the book. And you'll see you can apply this 4 defects thing to everything else. So I found it to be a very, very valuable tool to memorize these things in this part of the Isopanisad, because when you preach to somebody, inevitably you can slot all of this in, and it's like primary knowledge to prepare the person's consciousness to go higher. So it's very, very important to memorize it. Now, anyone else wants to take make an attempt? Uh-huh. Okay, yeah. Good. I like the way you are using that. Sham? Mm-hmm. You can only give what you have. The blind leading the blind, everyone falls into the ditch. Okay, that's not in the Isopanisad, but it's part of our philosophy that can be used there. Anything else? Avesh?
There to refers to that knowledge which is acquired by hearing. It is not experimental knowledge. Beauty is considered to be like a mother. We take so much knowledge from our mother. For example, if you want to know who your father is, who can answer you, your mother. The mother says, "There's your father." You have to accept it. It's not possible to experiment to find out whether he's your father. Similarly, if you want to know something beyond your experience, beyond your experimental knowledge, beyond the activities of the senses, then you have to accept the other. There is no question of experimenting. It has already been experimented. It is already settled. The version of the mother, for instance, has to be accepted as true. There is no other way.
So, if each of us try to experiment and figure out who's the father, we won't come to the ultimate conclusion, right? Yeah, you become very corrupt. It's confusing. You become more bewildered, right? So the Shrutis have knowledge, and it has been proven via experiment and that actually it is also the truth. And Prabhupada goes on to speak about cow dung and the conch. Cow dung and the conch there. All right. So the next question. What, that was Pranesh's answer, by the way. Why should I accept a guru? I can understand God on my own. Why should I accept a guru? Are all of you crazy? You're bowing down to man. It's a clear distinction between man and God. What would you say to a person who attacks you or argues with you like that? Asita? Mm-hmm. Deeper, deeper. Mm? Go ahead, yeah. Mm-hmm. Very good. That's today's verse at the end. We just taking you back in time. Yes. Yes. Yes, it's a more complex subject. So for all things material, you require a teacher. If you want to learn ABC, you don't just learn it off like that. You want to learn how to play anything you want to learn, you have to have a teacher. So what to speak of, if you want to learn swimming, I give the example, and you get a book on swimming, and you learn this book from cover to cover. But the first dive in the pool, we may never see you back, right? You require a teacher. So this complex knowledge also requires a teacher. And so much so, Prabhupada explains in the purport, in the introduction, that our mind is, okay, Kamalesan Prabhu, read loudly.
Just right and left at the speed of the light. A material airplanes can run 2,000 miles per hour. But what is the speed of light? You are sitting at home, you immediately think of India, say 10,000 miles away, one second in your home. Your mind has gone there. The mind's speed is so swift. Therefore, you stated, if you travel at this speed for billions of years, you'll find that the spiritual sky is not possible even to approach it. Therefore, the very judgment is that one must approach the word compulsory is used to modify spiritual master. And what is the qualification of a spiritual master? He is one who has rightly heard the very message from the right source, and he must practically and firmly establish the environment. These are two qualities in must have. Ignorance is not one.
Yes, and last week he gave that same answer when Prabhu asked, what is the qualification of a bona fide spiritual master? Am I right? You answered that question. Oh, okay, it came from that corner. So what happens is that the mind is imperfect, it's speeding, it's so fickle. Actually, the nectar of devotion, which we're going to study next, explains that the mind is chapala sukha, right? It goes after flickering happiness. It's how you say, it's chanchala, right? It's chanchala, means it is 1 minute here, 1 minute there. It is like a prostitute. It never ever is faithful to one thing, right? And the whole process of self-realization is to discipline this wild, untrained mind and bring it to the sweet shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Nothing is impossible, even though some of you look so forlorn at the statement, right? So, so the mind is like that. So how can the mind actually um, be able to focus on God or understand God on your own? Because you will learn one thing here and one thing there, and the knowledge is not congruent. You won't understand it in the system that it's meant to be understood. So one has to have a guru. But the Srimad Bhagavatam explains that one doesn't have a guru, one has many gurus, right? One takes shiksha from everything, one learns from everything. So one should always have an open heart to learn, to absorb, to assimilate from every good bona fide source. Because in reality, we know that uh, our initiating spiritual masters may only spend less than 24 hours maybe with us in a year, right? From the time we get we in their personal midst. But you have to have various shiksha sources, right, that actually are there to help you in different areas of our spiritual growth. What proof is there that the scriptures are perfect? You Hare Krishna people, this is the last question. You Hare Krishna people, he places so much emphasis on the scripture. How do you know it's perfect? Do you read very fast, like in a flash? Okay. Vivek, could you please read for us loudly?
Absolute truth is that from whom this is someone who is the same engagement about everything is absolute truth. What is the nature of it? That is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Absolute truth must be conscious. He is self-effulgent. He is given all consciousness and knowledge by receiving knowledge from others. But for him it is said that he is self-effulgent. The whole summary of Vedic knowledge is in the Vedanta Sutra. And the Vedanta Sutra is explained by the writer himself in Srimad Bhagavatam. We finally request those who are actually after Vedic knowledge to try to understand the explanation of all Vedic knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam.
So this Vedic knowledge is non-different from Krishna. It is the absolute truth, right? It is coming. What proof is it that the scriptures are perfect? Right? It is perfect because the absolute truth is perfect, right? And it is non-different from the absolute truth. And then you give the example that you have just mentioned just now. So, any questions thus far on what we covered? Yes, Prabhu.
Where is
90, yeah, 94%, 96%.
So is that 93%?
Mm. It's perfect.
It's designed for the purpose.
It's designed for a certain. It's designed perfectly to meet a certain need of karma kanda.
If you do this, you always get the result. Yeah. Not like if I do this puja something else and realize this. The knowledge is perfect. The destination, there's different levels of destinations, but the knowledge is perfect.
Okay. Now in mantra 6. Yasta sarvani bhutani atmanyeva nupasyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato navichugupsate yasta sarvani bhutani atmanyeva nupasyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato navichugupsate yasta sarvani bhutani atmanyevanupasyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato navichugupsate. Volunteers? Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevanupasyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato navichugupsate. Go ahead. Yasti sarvani bhutani atmanyevanupasyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato navichugupsate. Very good. Next. On this side of the room, any takers? Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevanupasyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato navichugupsate. For those of you that are scared to try, let me give you some tips. When you come to a word like this that begins in a vowel, then this word ends here, and this last letter continues this. Atman yeva. See, we said Atman yeva nupasyati. Then you come to Salva Bhuteshu. This is chat cha. This is a cha, right? Like acharya, not akarya, right? Hasapatan. So, yeah. So a few things like that. This is a long M. This is Bhutani, Bhutani, not Bhut, Bhutani. So the translation: He who sees systematically everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any beings. So this is Bhagavat consciousness. And this verse is dealing with the different types of consciousness in becoming a devotee, the different stages. So for those of you who did the Vaishnav etiquette course, which doesn't look like anyone did it here. Did it? Uh, so in the Vaishnav etiquette course, did it but can't remember. Okay. So in the Vaishnav etiquette course, we give the example of a mango. You get a sweet mango, then you get sweet sour, and you get a sour mango. So it starts off with the mango being sour. A green mango attached to the tree is actually a sour mango. Then, as it stays connected to the tree, if it remains being nourished and attached to the tree in the sunshine, etc., it becomes sweet sour. It progresses to the next level. It doesn't always remain sour and unpalatable, right? Um, Brahmanical taste is sweet. Bhagavad Gita, although people like green mangoes, right? So it becomes more relishable if it stays in association of the sun, it becomes sweet and sour. Then, if it remains further in that situation of being nourished, then it becomes very sweet and very nectarian and very relishable and becomes known as the king of fruits, right? So much can be said about that, right? That if it stays attached to the tree, this is the result. Now, this purport is explaining how God is realized in three stages, right? Three stages of consciousness that a practitioner would go through: the beginning, the middle, and the topmost stage. The topmost stage is the stage that one sees everything with equal vision, with no hatred, what we just read now, right? This just so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada begins this purport by explaining this is a description of a Mahabhagavat, the great personalities who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord's presence is realized in three stages. The Kanishta Adhikari is the lowest stage of realization, sour mango. Okay? So, in the state of sour mango, the Kanishta Adhikari, very new in his progress on the spiritual path, that personality has a certain mindset. And Srila Prabhupada mentions it very nicely in the next paragraph of the purport. And I have just categorized it like this in point form, but it is the exact words of that next paragraph from Srila Prabhupada. So, what is the mentality of a Kanishta or a neophyte? It's imperative for us to know that so that we can gauge our own consciousness and thereby grow further away from it, right? He goes to a place of worship such as a temple, church, or mosque according to his religious faith and worships there according to scriptural injunctions. He goes to the temple. God is confined to the four walls of a temple. God, he has to go there and then only he feels that, there he's worshiping on the altar, for example, right? God. And that's just God. There's no other option of where he can find God or be God conscious. Devotees in this stage consider the Lord to be present at the place of worship and nowhere else, Prabhupada writes. Right? They cannot ascertain who is in what position in devotional service, nor can they tell who has realized the Supreme Lord. So, because their mentality is stuck in a certain grove, they see everybody else in that way also. So one projects one's own consciousness onto others. Such devotees follow the routine formulas and sometimes quarrel amongst themselves, considering one type of devotion better than another. These Kanista Adhikaris are actually materialistic devotees who are simply trying to transcend the material boundary to reach the spiritual plane, right? They're on the path, they're trying to transcend the material boundary to reach the spiritual plane, but they're on a very low rung, right? A very confined space. It brings to mind the story of a Brahmin in Udupi, right? There was this Acharya in Udupi, and he had many disciples. So to teach a lesson, he had a very rare fruit, okay? And what he did was he cut the fruit into three pieces, and he gave this rare fruit, rare relishable fruit, to the three disciples. And he said to them, you can only eat this fruit on one condition. You can eat this fruit when nobody's looking. So the first person, he took the fruit, he went, and the place was mighty busy. Fruit oxidizes when it's cut. So he wanted to eat it very quickly. So he found himself a dark closet. He went inside the closet, closed himself there, and when nobody was looking, he ate it. I thought, success. I can report to Guru, that this is that I did it. I did it. So I did it. So the next person, he was thinking, okay, how is he going to do his? So he went and he tried different places, and eventually he decided he was going to cover his head. So he went, put the blanket or chadar over his head, and he ate it inside. So nobody could see. So the other person, now you know Udupi. Udupi has this temple, and the deity of Krishna is not facing the door. It looks out through a window, right? And there's a story about that. But I'm not going to tell you that story in this lesson. We'll save it for another time. So this other disciple, he went to different places. He went to the closet, he went to the ashram bedroom, where, he went everywhere. He went outside the ashram. And he really, really, took a long time. Then he came back and he gave this. He said, Guru Maharaj, I'm very sorry. I have to give you back the fruit. You know what his explanation was? Yes? Thank you. Very good, Javesh. Krishna was watching him everywhere he went. Whenever you try to hide, somebody's watching you. That's Krishna. How nice it is that Javesh knew the answer so spontaneously, right? So Krishna was watching. And this story indicates that Krishna is not contained to the deity in the temple or to any geographic situation. Krishna is everywhere. He's watching us from everywhere, right? So in my uh, student life of understanding this concept, my spiritual master was the GBC at one point in time, and as GBC of this country, whenever he came to our ashrams, in the temple he would meet with each department personally in every visit, and he would find out the challenges, etc., and he would speak. And of course, as worshippers of Sri Sri Nitai Gaura Hari, we had a deity department, so he would also meet with the deity department. So he would explain to us, to get us off this understanding of Krishna is in the deity only. He would tell us that a pujari's job is not finished when the arati is finished. The pujari should be out serving Charnamrita to the guests. is to tell us it's not enough to cook just for Krishna and let the devotees starve. So when you finish cooking and offering to Krishna, to see if your service was accepted, you go and you feed the devotees. And if they relish the prasad, then you know Krishna relished it. Furthermore, Krishna, in the Adi Purana, he tells Arjuna, he who claims to be my devotee is not my devotee, but he who claims to be the devotee of my devotee is my devotee. So, he who, even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us that, Gopi Bhaja Padakamalam, Das Anudas Anudas, right? That we should strive to become the servant of the servant of the servant. So one time, Srila Prabhupada, he was giving evening darshan. And one life member, he had come to the evening darshan many darshans ago. And he had some good interaction with Prabhupada. Prabhupada remembered him. Prabhupada is very acute in his memory of remembering people. So then Srila Prabhupada said, when he saw him after some time, he said, long time I never see you. Is everything okay? So the man said, no, I had a change in my daily schedule, so I come for the midday arti. Oh, you came for midday arti? He said, yes. So he mentioned he came like yesterday for the midday arti. So Prabhupada said, oh, did you speak to anybody? Because at that time, midday arti, all the devotees are out on Sankirtan. The only devotee in the temple is the pujari. So Prabhupada asked, so did you meet it? Did anyone talk to you? He said, no, there was nobody in the temple, Prabhupada. There was just the pujari who was doing the arti. So Prabhupada said, the pujari should have stopped the arti and spoken to you, right? And Prabhupada quoted that one who claims to be my devotee is not my devotee, but one who claims to be the devotee of my devotee is my devotee. Because you can imagine, you can understand that after lifetimes and lifetimes, 8,400,000 species times, God knows how many times a person finally lands on Krishna's property and nobody speaks to them. I remember one time we were at Sri Sri Radhanath temple. It was a festival. His Holiness Bhakti Chirumaj was leading the kirtan. It was at the peak of the kirtan. And some Western guests, you know how it is customary in Radhanath temple, tourists come all the time because it's such a beautiful temple. So everyone was, relishing this kirtan. And His Holiness Bhakti Chirumaj, the one senior devotee was there. So he said to that senior devotee, go and speak to them, and then he carried on leading the kirtan. And that devotee never left the kirtan to go speak to them. So after that, Maharaj asked, did you send someone to speak to them? Did they get prasad? What is the situation? He was inquiring, how those people were treated. And the devotee said, Maharaj, your kirtan was so relishable. I was relishing the holy names. And then Maharaj told us in the darshan, he went on about it and he said, after so many lifetimes, a person comes to Krishna's door and we're meant to be servants of Krishna. So we should actually receive them well. If you're a servant in the house of your master, why pretend to be the master and enjoy the facility? Be the servant that we're meant to be. Serve them. So we were trained like that. You do the 12 o'clock arti. You take the Rajput. It's not that we make a plate for ourselves. You first go and you serve. You see whoever is in the temple room and you serve them. And it is incredible who Krishna sends. For a long period of time, when we moved the deities to the academy and then to the new building, more in the academy, and in the new building, I used to have the service of doing that midday arti amidst other services. And it was amazing. Because we were trained like that, we would do that. We would take the train. We would tell immediately after the arti, we tell the people, wait. And if they were leaving during the arti, you just signal, wait, like that. And you take their Ma Prashad, and there's amazing stories of that Ma Prashadam, and how it affected their lives. They would tell you things like, oh, I took the Ma Prasadam home and I shared it with so and that person was having a hard time, and this happened by the potency of that Prasadam. They like amazing things will start to reveal itself about how Krishna left that prasadam for somebody, for a purpose. Like when the deity in the temple is conscious, it's not stone. But if you treat it as stone, it'll reciprocate as stone. So the neophyte mentality is to simply see the deity as that Krishna is only in the deity, is not there. Now, in the glorification of Krishna's devotees, Lord Shiva, he explained to Parvati that the highest form of worship is the worship of Vishnu, Vishnu Aradhanam Param. But higher than the worship of Vishnu is the worship of Vishnu's devotee. Krishna came as God, but then he came as the devotee after that, because as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was able to show us how to relish these things. He taught us to give all respects to others, right? In a humble state of mind, one should be more tolerant than a tree, right? We should chant the holy names in this mood. And then what happens? One will eventually get bhakti fructifying in one's heart. So, the neophyte, any questions on this part so far? Lord Krishna, when he spoke to one person, Shrutadev, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he explains to that person that a devotee is actually like a place of pilgrimage. When you go to a place of pilgrimage, what happens? You get reminded of Krishna. You get Krishna in different degrees, how much of a receptacle your heart is, and one's sin becomes deposited. So a Vaishnav, on a pure devotee, is a transparent via medium through which your karma is taken away by Krishna. The devotees are verily places of pilgrimage. There are many verses like that, right? So the devotee's position is so unique. And I think a few days ago, Nishingananda Prabhu posted on the group about Srila Prabhupada going to a place where worship was taking place. The person said they're busy with their worship or puja and they weren't interested. And Prabhupada explains that, what will you see in the deity? You rather get Krishna through a devotee. So similarly, when Prabhupada was in the class of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj one time, the curtains opened in the next neighboring room, and the people stood up and they went for the Arti Darshan. Srila Prabhupada was the only one that sat there, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj continued to preach. And later on, he remarked, I've marked him well, he listens well. Right? And it's so amazing that the deity is there and the katha is there. If you go into, you may have experience that if you go to a temple and it's empty, there's a different benefit you get as if you go to a place where there's a devotee and the devotee starts speaking Krishna katha, right? Because the place of worship is not restricted to the bricks and mortar. Krishna resides in the heart of the devotee, and as much as you become eligible, that devotee will reveal that to you. So therefore, in order to churn the nectar out of a devotee's heart, one has to very attentively see how I can get the benefit of his association. Like that. One has to become an expert nectar churner to get the maximum benefit of a devotee's association. The consciousness of the next category, the Madhyam Adhikari, and this is straight from the purport also. Those who have attained the second stage of realization is called a Madhyam Adhikaris. These devotees observe the distinctions between the four categories of beings. So they are educated enough, or they are mature enough to make distinctions. Okay, so they're able to see the Supreme Lord, the devotees of the Lord, the innocent and the atheists. The innocent who have no knowledge of the Lord, the atheists who have no faith in the Lord and hate those in devotional service. So they're able to distinguish. So it's not all is one. That's Mayavad philosophy. They're able to distinguish. And according to the level of consciousness of each person, a Madhyam Adhikari will reciprocate equally. The Madhyam behaves differently towards these four classes of people. He adores the Lord, considering him the object of his love and affection. He makes friends with those that are in devotional service, and he tries to awaken the dormant love of the hearts of the innocents. He avoids the atheists who deride the very name of the Lord. So the Madhyam Adhikari, the Kanistha Adhikari also has other qualities that are mentioned in the nectar of instruction that we just came from, right? In the nectar of instruction, it is mentioned that a Kanistha, because his faith is so weak, that when doubts are placed in front of him, his faith can change. Right? In the morning, he can be a Hare Krishna. In the afternoon, he can become a Muslim, for example, because his faith is very weak, right? He can actually become convinced otherwise. But a Madhyam devotee has faith, can argue on the basis of scripture. And on the basis of scripture, he can enliven a person who is innocent. A person's making innocent inquiries, that Madhyam devotee will be able to preach from all different angles, help the person to raise their consciousness. Then, with the atheists, he'll avoid them. Why? Even though milk is nourishing, if you feed it to the serpent, it becomes poisonous. So why waste your time? So sometimes if you go out preaching, book distribution, etc., you get people who are atheists, who are just out there to waste your time and be a hindrance in your progress of distributing and reaching other souls. So you got to be able to decisively cut and move on like that. So that's the Madhyam Adhikari. Then you get Madhyam, above the Madhyam Adhikari is the Uttam Adhikari, who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee does not discriminate between an atheist, a theist, but he sees everyone as part and parcel of God. He knows there's no essential difference between a vastly learned Brahmin and a dog in the street, because both of them are part and parcel of the Lord. Although they are engaged in different bodies on account of different qualities of their activities in their previous lives. He sees the Brahmana particle of the Supreme Lord has not misused his little independence given to him by the Lord, and that the dog particle has misused its independence and therefore is being punished by the lords of nature by being engaged in the form of a dog. not considering the respective actions of the Brahmana and the dog, the Uttamadhikari tries to do good to both. Such a learned devotee is not misled by the material bodies, but is attracted by the spiritual spark within them. So, the Uttamadhikari platform is the ripe mango, right? That's very sweet and nectarian. The Uttamadhikari's consciousness is in mantra 6, right? That we just read. So this Uttam Vaishnav, it reminds me of a story of this one devotee called Tukaram, right? The saint Tukaram from Maharashtra. So Tukaram, he was very saintly and very much in this consciousness of Uttam Adhikari. So one time Tukaram went to the bank of a holy river and he sat down to meditate. However, there was one person who was actually like a menace. You know, he really wanted to be the menace for Tukaram. So you know what he said? He said, I will break his meditation by disturbing him in this way. So as soon as Tukaram sat down to meditate, he went, and lo and behold, do you know what he had the audacity to do? He spat on Tukaram. So Tukaram, being the Vaishnava that he is, he woke up and he immediately went into the river, bathed himself, came back and sat down to meditate. Immediately when he sat down, closed his eyes to meditate, the man came back to him and did the same thing. This happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many times did it happen? Happened 108 times. By the 108th time, the man himself became so frustrated that Tukaram was so unmoved by his behavior. So he came and he said to Tukaram that, how is it you're not becoming agitated? I'm becoming agitated. How is it you're not becoming agitated by my action? Tukaram said, thank you so much, Prabhu. It is by your actions that I got the benefit of taking 108 baths in those auspicious waters. There's a similar story Nishingananda Prabhu says about our trip to Mayapur, and a devotee was walking past the bus. You want to tell him?
Some devotee was in the car, and one devotee was going past, and devotee that was sitting at the back of the car, he had to clear his throat. And he turned around.
And they have a way of spitting that it.
Going past. So he was devotee who was spat on, turned around, folded his hands, told the devotee to come very softly and carried him on.
From the shoe. I gather that it does sound shoo, like, I mean, that's a very high level of consciousness. And no, Prabhupada is going to explain just now how the behavior of a Uttam Vaishnav cannot be imitated, right? So here, Prabhupada is explaining that he sees with equal vision. He sees the dog and the Brahmana with equal vision. The Brahmana, he's the one that used Krishna's independence, the independence Krishna gave him, minute independence. He used it properly. The dog was the individual that didn't use it properly. It's stuck in that body. So he's able to see from a higher perspective. If there's a like outside, there's that staircase. So if you're standing at the bottom of that staircase, you will not be able to see a 200 Rand note that's lying on the top of the staircase, right? Well, this one is glass. But on a regular staircase, you won't be able to see what's on the top of the staircase. The Uttam Vaishnava, from his high platform, is able to see things in a different perspective. So we have to practice. All of these books, the process of Krishna consciousness is teaching us to raise our consciousness, to come out of our cocoon of conditioning and to rise higher, to see things from a higher perspective. That's what the acharyas are teaching us in this book all about. So he sees everything in equal balance, right? He sees that even the person that is doing him harm is simply but, like in Prabhu's story, it was the instrument of his karma. That person was not an aggressor, but he was due to get something, but he was due to get it anyway, and it came that way via this person. So thank you very much, Prabhu. At least some karma got washed off, so to speak. The other day, I was listening to one esteemed preacher someone was complaining to him about marital issues, right? And and the preacher was so expert to explain to the person, see, there are many ways of looking at your problems. But since you came to me, I have to give you a spiritual perspective. You want a material perspective, then you go to any, counselor, whatever. But you want a spiritual perspective, you get a spiritual perspective from me. So so he told the person that, listen, you have an allotted karma in this birth. If you're meant to suffer with this person or that person or whichever person, no matter how many jumps you're going to take, divorce here, remarry there, divorce again and remarry there, your karma is going to follow you like your forehead through the entire thing. So you might as well tolerate it in this situation in a Krishna conscious way and pass that test so it doesn't come back to you. Pass it in a Krishna conscious way and then, progress onto better things. So I thought that was like so instructive. So the Uttam Vaishnav, what happens is that in some cases, an Uttam Adhikari will come down to the Madhyam platform. And as a Madhyam now, within inverted commas, the Uttam Vaishnav will exhibit the behavior of a Madhyam, right? Because they have to propagate a message. So they will preach according to the levels of of gradation that we just covered in Madhyam consciousness. So that can happen also. Any points on this discussion? Yes, Prabhu.
Even the Madhyam stage is like very high. When I was reading the book, that just even being able to make those distinctions, one thing is very difficult. And then, especially there's the part that says always trying to enlighten the innocent. I noticed when I read that, I was just thinking like every innocent person that you come in contact with, not just, okay, now I'm on book distribution, so this one I'll try. So when I was thinking about it from that perspective, I was thinking that the way, what to speak of the Uttam stage is just like so high that how will you ever get to that?
Just now, Srila Prabhupada will speak about the Kanishta's consciousness, how it is basically based on material externals. For many years, I had the service of doing book distribution on a daily basis on the street, consecutively, day after day. And then you have to train, you have to program your consciousness. You force, that service is like so purifying, so amazing in how it forces you to come to a certain understanding that ordinarily you will just shun away or, put it on the back burner kind of thing. So when you're out there on the street, you have to, forget judging people by their externals You just have to understand I'm the postman, and whoever's coming my way is sent by Krishna. And there's a super soul in his heart and a super soul in my heart. And on that basis, you are forced to act. Because the day you go about saying, okay, let me approach this person or that person, this person or that person, just based on their externals. Like at one point in time in Hillbrow, it was before the 95 elections, it was very largely a tourist place. So you'd get these tourists. Now, tourists, when you offer them a hardbound Bhagavad Gita, which was 50 Rand in those days, right, which was still high. So when you offer gave them it was actually 25 rands, but on the street people would give us sometimes a 50 rand when we showed them this hard-covered book with color pictures. So the tourists sometimes would drop us 100 rand, and then we budget. Oh, now we can hand out so many free books because now it's covered by that guy's extra donation. So for the day we can distribute to other people. But sometimes you would get the person you least suspect, a pensioner, will come to you and say, "Oh, I always wanted to know about reincarnation," and is walking around with like a checkers bag with a few possessions in it. You hardly expect that this person is going to be the person who's going to spend extra cash on a book. And then they'll ask, "Do you have more books?" And then take like more books. "Oh, you have this book, that book." So definitely, when you're preaching, you have to you have to act like a madhyam, and be able to make those distinctions and give it. And yes, just to be even a kanista is very difficult. Mostly we very much below kanista, even because Kali Yuga is so bad. Our consciousness is so conditioned in the wrong way. According to scripture, who is known as Kanishta devotees? Ladendru. This person saw Vishnu, right? And he's Kanishta. So you can figure out where we are. Right? So, but we have to work towards it and understand, okay, here it is, and this is how the consciousness has to evolve to fit in, and beg for mercy and pray that not in an artificial sense, but in a natural way, I can immediately be placed, on a higher rung. Individually, we can't really say, okay, now I'm on this stage. I'm now on, for example, an Vriti. I pass this and I pass that. No, 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 because then we may be overplaying our role, so to speak. Right? That's why it's so important to form deep relationships with devotees. And in our days of living full time in the ashram, it was commonly told to in classes repeatedly that you should always approach a senior devotee and whom you trust and have a loving relationship with, and say, "Please tell me if there's anything you see I'm doing wrong." So before you chanted your japa, you would tell that to a devotee, right? And you so I mean, I had one Sankirtan, we were a team of Sankirtan devotees once in Durban. And this very nice devotee, American-bodied devotee, she's now gone back to America. So she's senior to me by all means. And then I did this, I told her. And I came from chanting Hare Krishna under my blanket softly, my 16 rounds when my parents were, sleeping for from 13 to till I finished matric. That's how I was doing my 16 rounds. So when I joined the temple, it was religious freedom. I could hear the holy name when I chanted it. So I would take pride in pronouncing each word audibly, right? And many times the pujari, there was a head pujari on the altar, Bimal Prasad Prabhu. He was also my nectar of devotion teacher. So he used to tell the other devotees that you all should learn how to chant like Bhaktin so and so, right? Referring to me. And I heard about it, and I was feeling like, okay, now past that level, I know how to chant. It's like I got a tick from Bhimo Prasad Prabhu. What more can there be? So and as so at Radharadhana temple on top there. So you come for greetings, and the women used to wait in the. There used to be like 50 odd brahmacharis, so you couldn't go to the temple room. So we'd wait for the conch shell to blow in the book table place. And this devotee, so we were sitting over there, a little maybe like from quarter to 7, and waiting for 7 o'clock greetings. And I said to her, Prabhu, I feel so honored to be chanting with you. She told me, come sit here. I said, I'm so honored to be chanting with you. Please tell me if I'm, if you see, feel free to tell me, to correct me, if you see anything wrong. And we would tell that to many devotees and genuinely mean it, right? So then she told me, okay, I wasn't pronouncing Krishna correctly. Because now you take it for granted, you got the approval of high ranking devotees, and then all of a sudden you're not pronouncing Krishna properly. And like, Krishna's the name. If you can't pronounce Krishna properly, you're going at high speed, no way, sort of thing. You gotta like be alert and attentive. So it's very important to actually stick to the association, follow Srila Rupa Goswami's teachings from the Nectar of Instruction, and form the relationships with the three different levels of devotees like that. So the Madhyam devotee, how does he makes friends with those who are in devotional service, and he tries to awaken the dormant love of God in the hearts of the innocent. He avoids the atheists who deride the very name of the Lord. So he has a way of dealing with each one of them. Then Srila Prabhupada explains, and Prema Parayana Prabhu, can you read for us, please, loudly?
Those who imitate something but who behave on public platforms are actually false planners. The conception of universal does not come from a Bhagavad, and not from a foolish person who does not properly understand the individual soul or the supreme super soul expansion, who dwells everywhere.
So we can't imitate the Uttam Vaishnav, right? By this, everyone is one, right? Because that is, Prabhupada explains, false, false philanthropists. Later on, Prabhupada will explain how we must learn this universal brotherhood. Which is the correct method of understanding universal brotherhood. You understand that everyone are servants of Krishna, but there are shades of gray, right? And we're able to shield ourselves in associating with those in the different shades. So sometimes, you may find that in their enthusiasm to get you to do some service for the deity, someone may minimize something else, right? Another service will tell you this is more important, which is more important, etc. And of course, in an institution, we do the needful, but we should also understand and make prior arrangements for services outside, just worshiping a deity, because what happens is that all is not one. Prabhupada never accepted this concept of all is one in any avenue. The conception of universal brotherhood must be learned from an Uttam Adhikari and not from a foolish person. So Uttam Vaishnava, when he sees that there's universal brotherhood, that everyone is actually a child of Krishna, that Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. Aham I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. I forget the Sanskrit. Um, so what happens is that he understands it this way, but he understands that their consciousness, just like how we came from the previous paragraph, where he took the brahmana and he took the dog, and he understood that they both children of Krishna, but they are differently situated according to their connection with the supreme whole. One has used his intelligence, minute independence properly, and the other one has used it improperly, but is going through a school of learning in that body. Then Prabhupada goes on to explain, and you can read it loudly.
It is clearly mentioned in this mantra that one should observe systematically see. This means that one must follow the previous established practice. Another question is the exact sense of the word using this action. Other means to follow. Pashyati means to observe. As the word anupashyati means that one should not see things as he does on the naked eye, but one should follow the previous established. Due to material defects, naked eye cannot see anything wrong.
So your Prabhupada is basing this on that introduction, the defects, that our defective senses. Now, if our senses are defective, we can't perceive things properly due to this defectiveness that we have in our conditioned state, then how is it possible for us um, uh, to progress without following the footsteps of previous acharyas? Now, one very valuable point that comes to mind here is, even though some of the acharyas in our line were very much, they're all, Uttam Vaishnavas, they have such evolved understanding of Krishna consciousness. They could have taken initiation from a picture, and so some of them, there's no clear history of the Diksha, but our lineage is the Shiksha line mostly. So sometimes with incomplete, not wrong, but incomplete understanding, we may try to find a sort of we may find an excuse not to accept anyone initiation from anyone. Now, it is important for us to understand that we do not jump over our founder Acharya. We accept Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON as the preeminent Shiksha Guru for all of us, for all times. He is the preeminent Shiksha Guru. He taught us the standards of everything we need to do for the next 10,000 years. Like sometimes, one time a devotee told me, "Oh, why we should celebrate such and such festival, because previously this was celebrated." So I said, "Yeah, holy festival, right?" So I said, "Yeah, Janava Mata celebrated Holi. She did the first, Holi celebrated by Krishna and the gopis, and then Janava Mata, when she did the first Gaur Punim, she did Holi, etc." But the devotee said, "But I can judge that you're not so much in the mood of, this festival." So I said, "No, it's not that I'm not in the mood of it. I obviously honor and respect that this is what Krishna does with the gopis, so what Mother Janava did, her associates did. But on a personal capacity, I like to stick to those things that Srila Prabhupada did." The same devotee then started questioning me, "Why you follow Nirjal?" Prabhupada was not so strong about Nirja. Therefore we don't follow Nirja, so to speak, she was saying. So I said, "Okay, you follow holy. Prabhupada didn't follow holy, but you don't want to follow Nirja. And then I was explaining to her, one of my spiritual mentors, when he was asked this question, he said, you shouldn't always remain a child, you should grow up. So for your in terms of sadhana practice, certain things you need to step up your practices in. So, Nirjal is a very nice opportunity to dedicate to a day of bhajan, of focusing on the holy name and minimizing all bodily demands. So, I do not have the mindset for the holy festival. I prefer the Nirja. So, yeah, we should follow the Acharya. We should not try to skip over the Acharya. Prabhupada gave us all the festivals in the Vaishnav calendar, for example, and he told us how to follow it. There should be Krishna Katha, there should be a feast, and there should be Kirtan, right? That should be the sum and substance of the program. And then we should wear tilak, right? Why? Because if you don't wear the tilak, I mean, for example, when it explains in the glories of the tilak, when you do the shrad ceremony for somebody that is deceased, you don't have the tilak, then, it's not a very good thing, because if you do the Shraddh ceremony and you make some mistakes, but if you wear the Vaishnav tilak, all your mistakes become nullified. So, what to speak of common services, right? Every service you want to perform, if you want to have a gathering at the temple, right? And you want to un-Krishna conscious it, aren't we like putting ourselves in illusion? Then how can you go to, for example, a temple, take out all your Vaishnav attire, rub off the tilak, and pretend we another organization and we pretend we something else? Then every being that walked through the door and came there after how many lifetimes, what did you give them? Like one time Prabhupada was called to a glorification of the Bhagavad Gita. They have, and some other organization organized this festival. Prabhupada really disapproved of the fact that there wasn't a Krishna picture up. So if you have anything under the banner of our founder Acharya, we keep it according to his standard. If we don't keep it against his standard, then Prabhupada mentions in this purport a verse, chapter 16, text 23, I think it is, of the Bhagavad Gita, where it explains that if you do things not according to the Vedic injunction, it is a masterpiece for disaster. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It depends what level of people you want to attract. If you want to attract people of very low conscious on the sensuous platform, then you may get millions. But Prabhupada said, we're not selling plastic. You sell plastic, you get millions of people coming to buy. We're interested in cultivating a Brahminical culture. So, the product is like a diamond that is rare. It's only sought after by people who are materially perplexed. You can have Bollywood dancing. You can have anything on stage to attract people. But what's the goal? They came all the way, you attracted them. Did you actually raise their consciousness, or did they lower your consciousness? It's a waste of time. That even in philanthropic work, Prabhupada said, what is the use, of so what is opening up hospitals? So many people are opening up hospitals. We are here to give something higher, beyond birth and death, not to teach people how to enjoy. Neither can we can't, if we're of a certain level, that's why it's always very, very important to execute devotional service under an advanced devotee. And an advanced devotee is one who is educated in understanding Srila Prabhupada's standards, right? As is given to us in writing, in so many his letters, his conversations, so many ways. Like there was a time when we were serving, the Sunday feast was just introduced, the buffet style of serving. And the GBC, His Holiness Giriraj Swami, he told us, said, what is this buffet style? He said, we are trained in being the servants, das and a das and a das. Prabhupada, when he introduced it in Juhu with them, because Maharaj served in Juhu, he said he made everybody, Prabhupada sat on the Vyasasan, he made everyone sit in rows like Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys sit, and he had the devotees go and serve the people and not even allow them to pick up their plates. Because then you affect their hearts. These people are giving so much service, now can I give some service back? Like that. So it was a psychological thing that Prabhupada understood. Prabhupada was really so amazing that he knew the consciousness of people and how to raise it to a higher platform. So when we get, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so we're devotional services practice under the direction of the spiritual master, nectar devotion. So, we cannot do, and all these verses or points we cannot concoct ideas, invent ideas how to attract people, especially if we want on that level. Because what happens is we would use things that I think people like this. If I like it, I'm going to be affected by it.
Like if he likes yoga, for example.
Otherwise, I'm going to attract the people with an activity that I myself am attracted. So if I am attracted by an activity that I like, how can I tell no, we must be now, we must not question when this activity is like in my mind? And what came to my mind was Mother Dharmani. In the early days, she was painting. So she was in the room painting, and that day she came into the temple in amazing. And others in the early days, they didn't know what was wrong. And Prabhupada also never really, like corrected them. He allowed them to come, learn themselves. So she was busy painting, and Prabhupada walked past. Prabhupada didn't see her. Prabhupada just walked past. But as soon as she felt Prabhupada walk past, and immediately she felt bad. Because of Prabhupada's purity, even Prabhupada didn't see her, Prabhupada didn't tell her. Because Prabhupada's purity, she felt something was wrong in the way she dressed. And she's a Westerner, so for her it's like, this is normal. But then later on, she went to Prabhupada and she, offered praise and said, Prabhupada, I'm very sorry, I dressed like this. And Prabhupada said, yeah, it's okay, but we should understand that the fever is already there. Don't increase the fever. So people's, fever for sense gratification is already there. Now you're going to have Bollywood, what you do? You increase it. And nectar devotion makes it very clear. If you engage in any sense gratification, two reactions are there. One is you intensify, you undergo the desire, right? And the other one is the reaction you will get from it. So, like, for example, if you see a naked woman, right, you're going to increase the desire for that, and you have to embrace a naked woman, molten naked woman. So, where did the reaction go by showing somebody something that intensifies the reaction? It doesn't work like that.
Srila Prabhupada wanted our temples to be like Vaikuntha bubbles, and the men to be Vaikuntha men, means men and women, right? Dressed in Vaishnava attire, cordial to the guests, learned in his books, so that when people come to the temple, come into our, vicinity, we don't go down to their level, but we give them the higher taste.
Just consider this is simple principle of when many people came to come to the temple, what they do.
One on the side, one on that.
Yeah, when they're young, what they do. So now somebody will say, this is
Sectarian.
It's like, you need to help people, it's like unity. But Prabhupada made it very clear why. Because that's the first step to understand, hold on, we have a fever, just keep a little distance. And so the principle is why you're separating because there's a fever and you want to keep each other away so that everyone can practice and focus their attention on these.
If you greet a person like this, this is a mudra, right? And it has a meaning that when you put your hands together and you say Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna Mataji, it actually has such a deep significance, right? But as opposed to any other way of greeting. So all these things are become insignificant if one becomes educated in Prabhupada's teachings. It's given so clearly in Prabhupada's purports, in black and white. Everything is there. Everything is there. We have to delve into it, absorb it, and live it, and then spread it. One cannot see properly unless one has heard from a superior source. Drive safely. One cannot see properly unless one has heard from a superior source. And the highest source is Vedic wisdom, which is spoken by the Lord Himself. Now, to follow on the thread of the discussion we've been having just now, one cannot see properly unless one has heard from a superior source. So now, if I want to address the deities, and it has happened one time in one temple, not an ISKCON temple, but a very esteemed temple in Vrindavan, they dressed in blue jeans, the deity, and they put a cell phone in his hand, right? Because they dressed the deity in blue jeans and they put a cell phone. Now, how will I know why am I dressing the deity? Because I want to bring pleasure to Krishna. Why am I doing any service to Krishna? Whether it's cooking, singing, or visiting him, taking him gifts. Why am I doing any service? I'm doing it because I want to I want to bring pleasure to Krishna. Now, how will I know if this activity is pleasing to Krishna, given the fact that I have 4 defects, right? I'm defective. Prabhupada is giving the answer here. Unless one has heard from a superior source, the highest source of Vedic wisdom, which is spoken by the Lord Himself, I'll not be able to see properly, which is the best way of bringing pleasure to Krishna. I may want to cook, something for Krishna that is not really proper. I may think that the best offering I can make to the deity in the temple, like when we first moved the deities to Lanesia, then we had to make an altar because in Hillground, the altar, we had built marble steps, so it was built and then they had pillars and like a canopy over, which we don't have right now, right? It's gone. So when we moved the deities to the academy in extension 5, the 2 devotees built an altar overnight. So the room was so small, perhaps the size of this. Then the altar was there. Then we had curtains. But you see, we'd moved into an Indian area. The culture was very different. So the first day we moved in, we hadn't even unpacked our own bags properly. So we went to do the 4 o'clock, the 12, one of the artis, there was a box of Tex chocolate lying on the altar. Somebody bought Tex chocolate, a whole box, and they came and left it on the altar. Because all the other Hindu temples in Indonesia, that's the standard. You want to make an offering to Krishna, then you buy a box of chocolates and you eclairs or checks or whatever, and you go drop it off there. And Krishna, I don't know what he is meant to do, but he's meant to deal with it. So I was so shocked to see the text chocolate. Because you read the ingredients, it has albumin in it, first of all. And the writing is so small, the person who probably bought it, couldn't even read that. So, we could read this fine print and it said albumin in it. So now, if it's not in authorized disciplic succession, we would know no better even. We too would think, okay, what's good in our perception of defective senses is the higher offering to Krishna. But Prabhupada tells us, no, this is not how you do it. At this part of the day, this is what you offer Krishna. Prabhupada has given us direction. He's taken the teachings of all the other acharyas, like a mother bird. A mother bird will take what she needs to feed the children. She half digests it, makes it digestible for the babies, and then gives it into the mouths of the nestlings, right? The baby birds. Similarly, the teachings of all previous acharyas is assimilated by the founder acharya and then is fed to us in a proper way in which we could digest it. So the position of the founder acharya is so important that you don't skip over. You read all of his books first, then you move on if you to the books that he recommended you read of the previous acharyas. But his position is of paramount importance as an authority for us. If we want to know anything, how to dress up, how to interact with each other, how to live our lives in any manner, we follow the founder acharya. And you know what? Like Asita was asking just now, Srila Prabhupada in his time would have a program. For example, the Bombay Pandals would have 60 to 70,000 people packed. With all of our yoga and Bollywood dancing, can we get 60,000, 70,000 people to listen to us? But if we stick to the process that Prabhupada used, because it's there for the next 10,000 years, there's no need to do anything else, but simply to have faith that this is how I'm going to do it, this is how I must do it, how it must be done, and the results will be phenomenal. The other day, somebody was asking me, how is it you distributed 4,000 books in 2 hours? Can you share some points? Right? Because we used to do that, Mahaharinam, and 4,000 books would go out in 2 hours. Right? And 100 devotees would be in the group distributing. The devotee was asking, how you inspired 100 people to go out on books? We can't even get like 10 people, etc. So I said, we did nothing. We depended on Srila Prabhupada. And we did what we understood from his teachings, and we stuck by that. And, that's why the glory is to Prabhupada, not to us. We just followed and did what we thought was the right thing to please Srila Prabhupada from his teachings. So definitely results come better if we follow in this rather than follow our senses, which we can't even use to see properly. Vedic truths are coming in disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahma, from Brahma to Narad, from Narad to Vyas, and from Vyas to his many disciples. Remember that difficult song? Right? From Brahma to Narad to Vyas to Madhva, Padmanabh, all the way coming to our dear most Srila Prabhupada. So these teachings have been passed. The mother bird has digested it and given it properly for that time, and the same thing has been done, and it all came down here, and now in the most digestible manner for the benefit of all of us, for the people we're trying to attract, In actual fact, our Bhagavad Gita teacher, he taught us one very valuable thing. He said, you cannot preach. You cannot preach to anybody. You can give a person an opportunity. Your position is simply to create, firstly, to follow perfectly yourself, and according to the teachings of the previous acharyas, you create an opportunity for the other person. You cannot do anything but besides create an opportunity and depend on the Lord. Give it your best shot and depend on the Lord. Supercell in this heart and supercell in that heart will reciprocate. Formerly, there was no need for to record the messages of the Vedas because people in earlier ages were more intelligent and had sharper memories. You know, prayana payasa sabya kalavasman yugedana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadrita. That in Kali Yuga, people are short-lived, unintelligent, misguided, and always disturbed. That is the symptom of all of us in Kali Yuga. So we fall short a few cents, so to speak. In comparison to people of the other ages. Like on Sunday, Sringananda Prabhu was explaining that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, at the age of 6 and 8, he would know the Bhagavad Gita off by heart, be able to, speak on a verse and give a purport to a verse, etc. So this is like such an amazing quality to have. They could follow the instructions simply by hearing once from the mouth of a bona fide spiritual master. By the mercy of our predecessor acharyas, these things have been written, they've been printed, they've been made available in the palm of our hands by the cell phone. Electronic gadgets, right? We have so much greater access to this most powerful knowledge. But unfortunately, like Prabhupada said, when you stay next to a train station, it's most likely you'll miss the train. Right? Because you think I'm near. I'll get there in time. I'm near. So other people that have to wake up early. So similarly, we have this thing in the palm of our hands and we're missing it. So we must be alert to the fact that we don't miss the boat. It's right there. It's so readily available. Can you read, Ananga?
Who originally compiled the Vedic system. The final, most perfect and sublime works are Shravyasadev, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a natural commentary on the Vedanta system. It's also the Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by the Lord himself and recorded by Vyasadeva. These are the most important revealed scriptures, and any commentary that contradicts the principles of the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam is unauthorized. There is complete agreement among the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. And no one should try to reach any conclusion about the Vedas without receiving instructions from members of Vyasadev's specific succession, who believe in the personality of Godhead and his diverse energies as they explained in Sri Isopanisad.
So the topmost book is our Amala Purana. When milk is boiled, milk has got cream in it, right? And when it is boiled, then the cream comes up to the top. And what's in the cream? The topmost nutrition of that vessel of milk is contained in the cream. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Purana, the cream of all the Puranas. The topmost knowledge is within the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. And depending on the level of our consciousness, we be able to perceive it on a deeper and deeper level. For example, I'll tell you from personal example. When the first time I encountered the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, I wanted to know why is it's this whole chapter is so many names with D, and they're all long names, and it's so difficult. And that became like an obstacle in my consciousness to learning. And when I read the first verse, nothing really clicked inside me, or I couldn't relish that first verse of Bhagavad Gita. And it took me many years and the good association of many advanced devotees and studying from different acharyas. Then I was able to understand it in a little deeper way. For example, what can one understand from the first verse of Bhagavad Gita? Anyone wants to say? Your hands up?
Like it sort of puts everything into perspective once it's how the conversation is being relayed, at least Sanjay mantra. Like, how to put that part into perspective. And, well, at least from the purport, I know the purport is amazing. Sri Prabhupada mentions how in this one Bhagavad Gita you find everything that you find elsewhere, but you also find things in here that you will not find anywhere else. I mean that from the purport, but the verse itself.
But he was asking after the assembly that they decided because he was concerned as to whether the auspicious place that was taking place that would have any impact on the outcome of it, and was worried that his sons would be more susceptible to loss.
Mm-hmm. Very good. That's what Prabhupada mentions in the purport, and I'm so happy you remembered that. There's another thing about that first verse. He is saying, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? Right? So he's saying, if I am relating about what did Prem Parayana and I do at a certain point in time when we entered this room for Bhagavad Gita, for this kata. So I can't say what did I and what if I say what did I and Prem Parayana do? What does it speak of me? I'm so puffed up. I'm only I put myself first. It's impolite. We learned that, right, in the very beginning of our grammar lessons, that it's impolite to say I and the next person. So that mamata, that I and my mentality is what Dhritarashtra is embodying. And that is the mentality we must leave at that first verse before we want to perceive the depths of the knowledge in the subsequent verses. That false ego of I and my, mamata, has to be left there, right at that page. Before you progress, you will not be able to assimilate anything else further if you're still stuck in that mentality of I and my. From it comes nepotism, and so many other things. You, the center of the universe. No, no, no. That you must leave behind there. Then you will progress to verse number 2. Otherwise, no, it will just be like syllables, right? That's coming one's way. So similarly, these commentaries have to be understood in the line of Srila Vyasadeva Prabhupada is explaining here. Because why? These books that he mentioned, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, they're non-different from Krishna. It's Krishna speaking to us, as this comic very nicely explains, right? That Krishna is speaking to us through these books. And if we want to hear and have a conversation with Krishna, then we must understand that. The conclusion, Ranganath Prabhu, you want to read loud and clear? I said that's the right name, right? Thanks.
This vision cannot be only after complete. One indicates teachings of the is still a matter of of faith in the field. It does not establish That indicates it can have no information. We do not have characteristics exposed to the material and therapy aspect as the material aspect of God's mind.
The prophet is saying here, the neophyte mentality is to be accepted and rejected by externals. Okay, he has got a position and I can benefit from his position. So let me become friends with him. I'll serve him, right? You know why? I need my letter of recommendation from him for X, Y, and Z. I need, he can, by me serving him and getting his approval, he can push me up my ladder in my personal ambition, right? But Prabhupada is saying, see on the level of the soul, this is a devotee who is mature enough to help me advance in this way, this, etc. And on that basis, serve and accept a person, not an externals. Oh, this one's initiated, that one's not initiated, etc. The person who was not initiated may be like in his 11th lifetime, progressed till there and has just come in this lifetime to take off from there. And we will undermine the person, say it's not initiated. I didn't see you at the temple. I didn't do this. Our narrow mentality is what we're reducing the next person to. But in actual fact, Krishna is seeing the person sincerity on a different level. One time, there's a story. I think it's in one of the Puranas. One devotee brought it to my attention last year, in one of the years in his teaching. And I was looking for a pastime in this with this theme. So the story goes like this: at one time, a group of brahmanas, they were in a forest and they were traversing through, and the weather was bad and they needed to stop to rest for the night, and they came across a derelict temple that was not so well kept. So they all went into this temple and they were taking their rest. A thief entered the temple and with muddy footprints started to walk in the temple and was doing his job, right? And then in the morning when they woke up, they were thinking, everyone was condemning this thief who came and stole, etc. But it became revealed that Krishna appreciated that the floor of his temple was cracked for so long and no one did anything. But at last somebody brought mud and covered the cracks. So Krishna sees things on a totally different level. So we should not project a narrow-minded, immature understanding on people and things on the spiritual path. So Prabhupada concludes like that. And he says, one who imitates the symptoms of an Uttam Adhikari may serve another's outward body for the purpose of fame or material reward, but he does not serve the spirit soul. So if you serve materially, you benefit materially, but you don't benefit spiritually as much as you could if you saw the person spiritually. Such an imitator can have no information of the spiritual world because his consciousness is material. Do we have any concluding corrections, questions, or comments? Yes, Kanchan Prabhu. We missed you in class. Question number 1. Okay. Yes. 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 So if you go to Vrindavan, thinking that an airline ticket can take you to Vrindavan, you haven't reached Vrindavan. It's a matter of consciousness, right? That what is Vrindavan and where is Vrindavan? Is it simply the trees and rocks that's Vrindavan? Or is there something deeper So we all know that Boma Vrindavan is covered by a layer of Maya, which the airline ticket cannot take you through. So if your consciousness is not sufficiently das anudas anudas, then the perception of the place and will always be geographical. You won't be able to perceive Vrindavan apart from the geographics of it being on that particular continent.
Without that, you can't go. Then, how long can one stay on this platform? So, okay, so also regarding point 4 on this, doesn't one have to perform? Point 4 is such devotees follow the routine formula and sometimes quarrel among themselves, considering one type of devotion better than another.
Yes. Yeah.
Question is regarding point 4 on this, doesn't one have to perform these disciplines in order to gradually climb into a new platform?
Vaidhi Bhakti is following the rules and regulations to eventually raise one's consciousness to spontaneous consciousness. So the disciplines that come together with the service of deity worship is, yes, it can be in Vaidhi Bhakti, and in Vaidhi Bhakti, one accepts rules and regulations. So it's not that one has to think that following the rules and regulations is neophyte. No. In order to come to the level of spontaneity, one has to go through Vaidhi Bhakti to come to Raganuga Bhakti. You're 100% correct.
And how long can one
Prabhupada said it can take you a minute or it can take you many lifetimes.
from my understanding, and will get to mercy, but not always, as the mercy is dependent on the sincerity of the bhakta who is endeavoring.
Or it depends on the Kripa Shakti of the giver of mercy. One time the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, I cannot understand what I have done to be on this path of devotional service. And Prabhupada said, you didn't do anything. I created your piety, your mercy.
How can one understand one makes full progress in bhakti by initiation and sannyas, etc., but their mood is still in the mood, but their mood is still in line with the symptoms?
Clearer question? You see, externally one may accept in an institution initiation for the wrong reasons. So one should find, because Prabhupada delineated quite clearly in this purport that to learn anything one requires a teacher, right? Because our senses are imperfect, etc. And with imperfect vision, we cannot see, therefore, we have to follow someone in disciplic succession. So, this we stressed earlier on in the class does not specifically mean the Diksha Guru or the Diksha Guru, because you could have many Shiksha Gurus that can help you rise further. So, it's not imperative to have one Guru. One should have many Gurus. Guru is one that appears in many forms. So collectively, that can help you rise higher. What else? What is it? What else? Said about the institution, sannyas, and another point with that question is that the Diksha Guru could be either Kanishta, Madhyam, or Uttam. It is not always it is not always that a Diksha Guru is an Uttam Adhikari. You can have a Diksha Guru who is in an institution but is not on the Uttam platform.
Now, this is another point regarding this question.
can be formally initiated, but not initiated.
That means you have not surrendered. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gives, there's a story regarding Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj in this line of thought that he'd given initiation, sannyas initiation to somebody, and his wife dragged him from the fire sacrifice. So then the question was by the other disciples, did he really get initiated? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said no. He didn't get initiated. Initiation means internal commitment.
Yeah. So sometimes we may use the formal process or formal externals of initiation, etc. As a gauge to help people progress. But ultimately, I can give initiation, I can get sannyas, and the externals may actually not indicate my actual spiritual position. I may be far more advanced than my former level of initiation, or I may be far more degraded than my former level of initiation. The formality of initiation within the institution is an institutional process, but real spiritual practice or advancement is not dictated by an institution, it's dictated by the heart and one's relationship with Krishna. But for, because we're an institution, we need some sort of grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, levels to help people. But true initiation, Prabhupada says, is when one's heart is surrendered to the spiritual master. Like Prabhupada himself gave the example how when he left Srila Bhaktisiddhanta he immediately accepted. So he wasn't formally initiated, but he accepted. So that is the true initiation. The fire sacrifice, that is secondary.
And the other point is, it is a limiting consequence to think that no, I don't see anyone qualified because one hasn't met every bona fide Vaishnav on the planet. So due to geographics, one may be limited to the association of a certain, a certain amount of devotees that one may not be able to perceive as the person that one has to surrender to, but that one should not give up the desire. It is by the mercy of Krishna one gets Guru, and by the mercy of Guru one gets Krishna. So one should maintain the desire that Krishna should lead us to that type of association that would impel us to greater surrender. Anything further from the devotees then? So the verse, again, the translation, he who sees systematically everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. So Uttam Vaishnav, when he sees a prisoner, he sees, what does he see? He sees that this prisoner is being forced to follow the laws of the government, the government. So he does not want to follow, but he's being forced. So similarly, we do not want to surrender to Krishna, the process of Krishna consciousness, but somehow or the other we will be forced. Just like the prisoner did not want to follow, he got thrown in prison and he's forced to follow. So the Uttam Vaishnav does not see any reason to hate or minimize a prisoner's position. He sees him, you're either serving the divine energy of Krishna or you're serving his material energy. Either way, you're still a servant of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, we continue the discussion in the subsequent lessons. And if you have any more thoughts, questions, or clarifications, please write them down and bring them or send them like you've done. We would address them when they come. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Isopanishad ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai.